What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about NIO. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down what's moving it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So NIO is down slightly, 0.55%, nothing overly crazy. 356 the low, 363 the high. So it did show some signs of wanting to break out, but luckily enough, it is holding some good support levels. So I'll go over that in a second. But a couple of things that did come out today was this. So the weekly registration numbers, grand total of 4,235, 735 of which are associated to Onvo, so very low. And then NIO is at 3,500. So good for NIO, at least it's moving in the right direction. Like I said, for Onvo, not the best, and it's kind of unique because we did have a executive last week saying that pretty much Onvo is going to be like ramping up tenfold, and that sales have already like blown up like crazy. So 735 doesn't really represent that whatsoever. So we'll just have to wait and see. Also, there was another PR that did come out early this morning that wasn't necessarily good for Chinese EVs. So there was a lot of optimism that China and the EU were going to come to some resolution on the tariffs. And it does look as though that they're going to be suspended. So the EU is likely to suspend its efforts to reach a resolution with China over its tariffs on EV imports pending the outcome of the ongoing EU-US tariff negotiations. So tariffs, it'd be nice just to have one full day of no talking about tariffs. That would be the best case scenario. But yeah, ultimately all these tariffs are disrupting everything. So I felt that was a good catalyst for not just NIO, but other Chinese EVs if they were going to come to some resolution on this. But it looks as though it's just a waiting game. Shorts today are returning 234,000 shares. 14.45% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 229.77 million shares. So by shorts returning today, it kind of does show that today's red day isn't really justified. That's how I see it, of course, because there's a lot of available shares. So 3.1 million. So if shorts really wanted to double down and felt that there was a lot more downside, there's a lot of ammunition. And plus, on a side note, it is relatively cheap to short NIO. So IBKR, for instance, is charging 7.95%, and that is an annual rate, not a daily rate. So I see this information as relatively optimistic. Cost to borrow average, on a side note, is 11.76%. Moving on, looking at the options, 536,000 in calls, 2.95 million in puts. 50% of all the options being done today, though, are optimistic in nature. So you kind of see a lot of this abnormal buying from the options as it does move higher. So it's you can kind of see that big money essentially does see more upside with NIO. Just there's a lot of geopolitical issues unfortunately plaguing NIO, but that's been the case for a while. Based on the bulls, you do see a consensus for it to be roughly around that $4 range, and then random pockets for it to be above 5, for instance, for next week, and then 4 for the week ending May the 9th. As far as the bears, they are anticipating for it to be sub $3. So kind of crazy that there was 23,000 purchased at that 3 today, and then 11,000 at that 4. Random pockets as well for January 16th, 2026. $4 strike price, $5 strike price, but so it's kind of all up in the air. But these are all the transactions occurring on the dark pool above $100,000. Then these are all the transactions, or lack thereof, on the secondary market. So big money is not really getting into NIO, and this is why you're seeing a little bit lower volume. But with it at $3.60, right above this S1, so 356 is a strong support. And like I said, that actually has been the saving grace. That's what it bounced off of today for the low. So just kind of continue to watch for that to hold. Flip side, 429 is going to be the next strong target / resistance. Very wide gap. So you kind of have to, it's just a waiting game. And as far as on the actual chart, side note, there's no new analyst ratings over here or anything like that. But on the actual chart itself, even though today a lot of negative things have come out about EU and so forth, it's still relatively okay on the technicals. So it doesn't look all doom and gloomish as what it was right over here. So it is above the ALMA, and so that's sitting at $3.37. Next kind of points to really watch for is that 50-day moving average, and that's $4.26. 436 is that 100-day moving average, and then 464 is that 200. So I think NIO could really move higher, assuming there isn't any escalations coming from the States towards China. If it just continues the status quo, I feel like big money might be starting to feel a little bit more comfortable in moving in. One thing to take note of, though, I believe it just came out like an hour ago, is that the States in economy in its entirety did just get a downgrade from the EU. So I don't know how that is going to play into the negotiations with the EU, because that's not necessarily the best. And Trump, who very much is just very like all emotion, he's going to see that as an attack against the states. So I don't know how all of this is going to play out, but maybe if the US and EU, that kind of negotiations fall through, that's very advantageous for China and through that NIO. So let me know your general viewpoint on everything that is happening. Like I said, it'd be really nice if we had one day that we had no geopolitical issues. NIO was just able to move up accordingly and actually like break out, but whatever, it's just a waiting game. So let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon and get buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. Many of them have been absolutely on point even today. Just my day trades, all of them pretty much did hit. So yeah, very much worthwhile to pop over and take a look. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.